Read more Snuggles by Internet is My Life. Harry woke up slowly, his mind drifting in and out of yet another amazing dream filled with some very familiar silky white hair and a pair of breathtakingly gray eyes. The first thing that caught his attention was the chill that trilled through his body, jolting his body into alertness. The frosty air biting into his arms where they had been left exposed to the room by the crumpled blanket. It would seem that they had slept long enough for the fire that had been crackling away in the corner to extinguish completely. As he lay listening to the comforting silence of the room, his thoughts began to wander towards the relaxing weight resting on his chest, heat leaking through his body from the source. Sometime throughout the night, despite the large amount of space provided to them, in the enormous bed the room of requirements had conjured up, Draco had moved in his sleep, now resting his whole body completely on top of Harry's own, pinning him down to the sheets below. His fingers beginning to go numb from the position, Harry began to test just how much of his body he could move without waking the peaceful boy on top of him. It took him only seconds to realize that any attempt was futile. There was no way he was going to be able to move even an inch, let alone get up and out of bed without disrupting his lover. He gave up on this task for the meantime. Instead, he turned his attention to assessing his surroundings, trying to get any gauge on just how long the two of them had been asleep for. Of course, this wasn't the first time the lovers had fallen asleep during one of their cuddle sessions, and he's sure that it wouldn't be the last. Normally, at least one of them remembers to set an alarm. Too many nights they had lost track of time doing stuff, only to just scrape back in time for breakfast. He knew as soon as he looked out the window that they had messed up. The sky was way too bright. There was absolutely no way it was early enough for no one to have noticed the missing yet. He could only imagine the lecture that was waiting for him. Looking down at his partner, he knew that he needed to wake him up, but he couldn't bring himself to bother the sleeping boy, knowing how rare it was for him to have a peaceful sleep that wasn't filled with nightmares and bad dreams. They were already so late, surely 5 more minutes weren't gonna hurt. Harry could only hope to one day live a life that allowed Draco to look as carefree and peaceful during his waking hours as he did when he was asleep. He wished for a normal life, away from the news, reports, and the cameras, where the two of them could just be Harry and Draco. This may seem like a dream now. Harry was determined to give Draco the life that he deserved. He shifted his hold on the smaller man in an attempt to gently rouse the blonde. "Draco," he said, no louder than a whisper of wind against his ear. "Baby, it's time to wake up." He kept his voice calm and gentle, knowing that harsh tones and surprises won't end well for either boy. The blonde showed no sign of waking, his stubbornness shining through even in sleep. Harry tried again. "Baby, we slept in. They're sure to have noticed us missing by now." He paired this with a small shake to Draco's shoulder. Thankfully, he was successful this time. Draco vocalized his annoyance. "It's too early, love." As if to prove his statement, Draco rolled his body, pressing his face further into Harry's neck, effectively cutting off any attempt at eye contact from the larger man. Harry fondly rolled his eyes at the dramatics of his man. "We have to get up, sweetheart. We've already missed breakfast." This caught Draco's attention. His head shot up, narrowly missing the end of Harry's chin. "Wait, what?" His hands reached out to soothe the other instinctively, running his warm palms up and down the smooth skin of his back, as if there were any chance of savoring the peace and calm that had surrounded them moments ago. "Shh, calm down, baby." The blonde was already up, his legs coming up to wrap around Harry, straddling his waist as he looked around the room, his eyes squinting against the unexpected light as he attempted to blink himself to fully conscious and figure out just how screwed the two of them were. "Oh, blimey," looking as if he wanted to do anything but. Draco rolled himself out of bed, his pale arms sprouting tiny bumps as soon as his skin was uncovered from the warmth of the duvet cover. "Dray, sweetheart, come down, my love." Harry followed the smaller man, his own body shivering against the cold. "Calm down? Calm down? How can you ask me to calm down when half the castle probably thinks I've kidnapped you or something of the sort?" Doing his best not to roll his eyes at the dramatics of his lover, Harry briefly considered that this sounded exactly like a story Ron was bound to be spinning at this very moment. He wouldn't put it past his best friend to place the blame on Draco, for no reason other than he felt like it. Putting this thought aside for a moment, he focused on the more urgent task at hand, stopping his boyfriend from having a heart attack right in front of him. "Oh, you stop that right now," placing his hands on the still flushed cheeks of his lover. He attempted to stop him in his mad pacing across the carpet. "You and I both know that it's not unusual for you to disappear for a few hours here and there during the weekend. Your peers probably haven't even put a second thought to it." He very deliberately left out that Draco didn't tend to have any good friends who would pay attention enough for him to notice missing overnight. But why kick a man when he was already down? Draco had finally halted his crazed attempt at pacing, letting some of the anxiety leak out of his body through the warm and comforting hands of his partner. He didn't know how, but he always tended to know exactly what Draco needed, a skill no one had ever bothered to learn before. Harry continued, the plan making itself up as he spoke. "I'll tell Hermione that I fell asleep in the library studying for exams for something. She'll be so happy I was doing schoolwork, she wouldn't ask too many big questions after that. You can come down for lunch, and that should give us a big enough gap that there's no way someone will notice." Draco's heart had settled back to a normal beat after his initial scare. He allowed himself to be led back to the large bed in the center of the room, accepting Harry's hand as he was helped back underneath the covers. "Until then, you stay here and keep resting. I'll set an alarm for lunch and see you across the hall when you come down, okay?" The drowsiness coming back as the chaos of the last few minutes fade away, and Draco can't find a flaw in the plan, simply agreeing to everything coming out of the Gryffindor's mouth. "You promise they'll believe that?" Harry looked amused, as if he thought back to all the silly lies they have gotten away with in the past. "Yes, love. I'll send Hedwig up if I think they're getting suspicious." Draco simply nodded this time. Harry placed one last kiss on his forehead. "I'll see you back here tonight, baby. I love you." Love you too."